Arlo, given who your father was and who you were raised with when you were a kid, you were born to be a part of the 60s, weren't you?
Well, it's interesting because for me, having grown up really as in the 50s is when I went from being a kid to being a conscious person. Right. And in those days, guys like my dad and Pete Seeger and some others had really set the groundwork for the 60s as far as I was concerned, as far as the music was concerned, because they went around even earlier, back in the 30s and 40s, realized that the songs that people were singing on their back porches was telling the history of people that wasn't necessarily in the textbooks in the schools. And that led the way into the songwriting era of the 60s. So for me, I was prepped pretty good for that.
What did you think about Vietnam?
My idea was that basically, how are we supposed to be going around telling other people what to do when we weren't doing things right here? You got to remember, in the context of the times, the civil rights movement was going on. There were people who couldn't vote in this country, and yet we were going over there telling those folks what to do and how to do it, and this is the right way. So I thought that was kind of an odd thing to be saying.
Joan Baez, one of your contemporaries, says one of the failures of the 60s is that there was no staying power, that the people who protested in 67, 68, 69, 70, then went off and started companies and worried about big houses and getting their kids into private schools. And when the issues continued to come along, they were no longer on the streets.
Well, that certainly is probably true to some extent. There are a lot of people who I remember saying, "Wake up. Time to wake up. Time to wake up." We all woke up, as it were. But there's only so much you actually want to stay awake, and movements and ideologies deserve a rest. There can't be this constant pressure on you as a human being to stay awake, stay in it, keep going, keep going. That's just not natural. So I don't have a problem with the 60s drifting off into a comfortable sleep. The thing is, you need to know when it's time to wake up again.
What's your favorite memory of the 60s?
My favorite has got to be the culmination of what I think the 60s was all about, which was the anti-war demonstration in Washington. I think it was November of '69. To see that ocean of people. And at that time, you got to remember, at that time, we were being joined by the guys that were coming back from Vietnam. This wasn't just a bunch of hippies anymore, because it was easy to talk down about them. It was easy to say, "Oh, they don't know nothing, they're just stupid." But when the vets came back, and they got on those platforms, and they started talking about what was going on, and that they supported the idea of, let's just get the hell out of here, I knew that it was virtually over. And so the highlight for me of the 60s was this wonderful event in 1969.